Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 1791, Welcome to Mike's Daily Podcast here at Cafe Anyway, located somewhere in Podcaster Valleymont, the last place on earth. And I hope you enjoyed the last show. It was very wacky and all over the place. We talked to somebody who is going to be replacing me at my job, and he is an interesting
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Promising young man, a millennial. And I think they hate to be called millennials, as I'd hate to be called
Mike's Daily Podcast.
A Gen Xer, or some even call me a baby boomer. Even though I am not in that category, I'm going to say that I am not thinking of lyrics to sing today. La 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 la. Yeah, so training someone is a lot of fun for my job.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
My morning job requires a lot of things, a lot of creative things, and then a lot of technical things. And
Mike's
a lot of people can't
Daily
process all of it.
Podcast.
So it's a fine-tuned job. But I think the candidate that you heard on yesterday's show is up for it. I think he can do it. It is just a lot. When I train someone and they ask me questions that have nothing to do with what I'm trying to tell them, it's sort of like, shut up, let me teach, watch me write stuff on the blackboard, and then you can raise your hand and ask a question. I think that's why teachers do it. Or maybe they do it because they're teachers and they're annoying. But I loved class sometimes when the teacher wasn't talking down to us, when the teacher was droning on and on and on. But yeah, that's what 1791 is, today's episode. We're looking back on one thing, though. Yesterday I didn't happen to talk about after I played it for you, but it was my old days at Chely, which was, yes, a cafe format type show with the music and all that. It was very interesting, and that was Ron that you heard, who said, I don't think you can put that on the radio. Ron was such a nice guy. I doubt, since that what you heard yesterday was from back in the 90s, I doubt he's still alive. He smoked a lot. He would mail me little presents, little gifts, like...
And here's today's podcast picture.
Funny t-shirts. That's not what the podcast picture is today. It's actually of the brewmaster who stopped by at the end of the last podcast and poured us a root beer. If you didn't hear that, you should go back to the last podcast. That was episode 1790. And that was the year that we conquered England and took it over in the name of Spain. What? That's, history book? What? Yeah, so Ron was interesting. But he would mail me like these t-shirts. One, because I went by the name Matt Michaels back then. He mailed me, he physically mailed me a t-shirt that said Matthewology, the study of Matt, I think is what it was. And it stunk of cigarette smoke. I still have that shirt. It doesn't smell like that anymore. It long since cleaned up. But yeah, and he sent me, I remember, a funny like sweater that said A2 Doofus instead of A2 Brutus. And the quirky things like that. So he was a nice guy, and he'd call my show every night and say odd things like you heard on the last podcast. Hey, ramen. Did you think I said Robin? Like Batman? Like, oh, did you hear? I don't know if you heard in the thing I played you yesterday from the cassette cubby hole. There was a little bit of a commercial that I did where I played Batman. And it's very difficult to do Adam West because he was so very just dry. And listen, chum, we're going to have to fight the Pharaoh and the Penguin simultaneously. But yeah, that was one of the little things in that. You should check out the last podcast. It was really good. So Rami Malek, the Rami Malek guy who plays Mr. Freddie Mercury in the latest Queen movie and does a really good job, and he got a Golden Globe. Interesting apparently Sacha Baron Cohen was going to play that role. This is what I hear. That he originally was going to be Freddie Mercury, and that Queen movie was going to be a whole lot darker. I don't know. I was going to talk a little bit more about just the fact that, well, that he was bisexual and he was having male relationships and that he got AIDS. And I guess really, they talked about that in the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, but I guess in this version, it was going to be a lot darker. And because they didn't go ultra dark, Sacha Baron Cohen said, no, I'm not interested. But Rami Malek, my gosh, he took it over and did such a good job. And to people who are rock and roll royalty, like Paul McCartney, they say that this guy did such a good job. He should be applauded. And it's a great honor to Freddie Mercury's name and legacy that Rami Malek painted for a younger generation, for young people who have no idea what Queen is. They've heard Another One Bites the Dust, or A Crazy Little Thing Called Love, or We Are the Champions and We Will Rock You, and go, oh yeah, that's a band. That's a rock band from the 70s. They all had hair metal bands, and it was Guns N' Roses. And no, Queen was way before Guns N' Roses. Queen was not Guns N' Roses. They were prog rock. They were attempting that sort of thing at the beginning. But in the end, they just loved music, and they did a great job. So, but, what? Huh? Basil's going to bark in a second. He bit my hand last night. Don't bite the hand that feeds. But it's my fault because I was playing with him. And he got me good. To the point that it's still a little sore. But it's not like there's no bruises on the outside, but he was playing, doing that kind of thing, and he loves it when you try and grab his paws, and he's like, stop, I'm gonna get you, and that kind of thing. Dogs love that. And even at his age, he loves playing that. Jim Rome, I worked with him in radio back in the day. Well, I guess Guns N' Roses fittingly has to do with Jim Rome, because when I was working at this top 40 station in Santa Barbara, it was called Y97, the letter Y, not the word Y. Y97, which was a stupid name. Most radio stations, they get a letter like Q or Z, or B. You have to watch out for letters that some people go, what did you say? Did you say D? Did you say V? No, I said Q. There's a bunch of letters that all sort of sound alike, and we had Y. That letter, I guess, stands out as not, but then it could also be a word. At any rate, it was in Santa Barbara, and we also had in the building a news station called KTMS. And there was a guy named Jim Rome who was working there. Young guy. They made him the sports announcer dude, so any kind of sports news that came through, he would be on KTMS doing the sports report, and then also doing a sports report on Y97. And Jim Rome also would pick up some shifts doing other things like running the board, as they say. They had automation back then, and he was just there to babysit in case something went wrong. He could fix it. So he was very bored sitting there in KTMS, and he and I would chit-chat about music. And I remember him telling me, yeah, the music you play on Y97, this top 40 stuff, is awful. And then one day we start playing Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses because it had made it into the top 10. And so we were playing whatever was in the top 10. So I go running into the sports or to the newsroom where he's babysitting as we're running outside a cafe anyway, where we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcaster Valley. And I go, Jim, we're playing Guns N' Roses, listen. And he hit the monitor for Y97 and he hears it and he was just blasting it. He loved it. I had no idea that guy was going to be so popular in the sports world, in the sports radio world. He kind of created sports radio, or made it popular anyway. And there's also the story of around the same time, I had to be there on the weekends. But during the week, I had decided to go up to see my girlfriend at the time, who lived in Walnut Creek. So I drove all the way up from the Santa Barbara area up to Walnut Creek to see her. And then I'm driving all the way back, and my car breaks down. And I'm supposed to do the overnight. And a guy named Damian Young from the station came to pick me up. He later became this hip-hop, I don't know, see this world, I don't know either, hip-hop like producer mogul dude named Demiza. I don't know. That's what the name is. That's what someone told me. So he picks me up and gets me to the station. I do the overnight shift, and then at 6 o'clock I am burnt out. I have to sleep. Well, there's nowhere to sleep at the station except for in the office. They have outside of the studios, they've got a bunch of office cubicles. So I go to sleep under one of the desks. Well, I wake up about 3 hours later to the sound of Jim Rome at the desk right next to me, and he's talking to his dad. So I'm literally under the desk next to his desk, and I'm hearing him talk to his dad and saying, "Hey, Pa." "Yeah, Pa." "Okay, Pa." "That's right, Pa. I got enough money for rent, Pa." And this conversation goes on, and I'm like, oh, well, I just want to sleep. But I can't get up because I'm going to scare the crap out of him. Plus, I can't move because my body is in that state, you know, where you're sleeping and then it's all numbed out and you can't move. So I wait till Jim Rome leaves, and then I get up and leave. But that Jim Rome doesn't know that story. And I haven't talked to Jim Rome since then. But at any rate, he was mentioned on a talk show hosted by Hugh Hewitt. I guess Hugh Hewitt loves Jim Rome because deep down, Hugh Hewitt wants to be a sports radio announcer instead of a political radio, conservative talk radio announcer. And Hugh Hewitt's talking about Jim Rome when Jim Rome was commenting on Trump buying McDonald's food for all those, whatever that team was, something like they were from Cleveland or something. And then, and he's like, how dare he, Jim Rome said, how dare he get them filet of fish or some joke. I don't know. It had nothing to do with anything, or maybe it was something, or maybe it was even funny. And Hugh Hewitt's laughing about it. And I'm thinking, wow, Jim Rome, is that still well known? That even Hugh Hewitt would talk about him, and that he is obsessed by him. Unlike my girlfriend, who is obsessed with cats. Yes, cats. As years ago, I went on a mini date. All I did was walk with a lady that I had met at a party. We went walking. I brought my dog, Basil the Boxer, who sounds a little like this. And so I'm walking with this Russian lady, and she says, well, I don't have any pets, but when I was younger, we had a cat. That's how she said it. Cat. So my girlfriend is obsessed with cats. My girlfriend, my lovely lady friend, she's not the Russian now. This is years later. The Russian girl was years ago. So stop thinking about the Russian person. Think about this lovely lady friend that I'm talking about now. Okay, very good. Puerto Rican. So she loves these cat apps. She loves these things where, well, what it is she looks on her browser. She gets Google Alert news reports about cute cat stories, like kittens that are saved from peril and dire things. And then also she watches this cat cam, where it's these cats that are playing around at some, pet rescue place, and they're playing and they're having a good time. And I told a friend about this whole thing and about how my girlfriend really wants me to get a cat. And I can't because of the wonderful Basil the Boxer. He doesn't like them, and I'm allergic, and there you go. But she goes, so she loves these cats playing, and my friend he goes, yeah, why don't, instead of she watch a cat cam where they're playing, how about a cat cam where they're pooping in that awful litter box that stinks to high heaven, and peeing on stuff all over the place, and ripping up your favorite furniture? To which my lady friend would say, yeah, well, dogs do that too. But no, they don't. Dogs don't have litter boxes. I mean, they can have litter boxes, but on the whole, they get the idea you go outside. At any rate, it's this whole issue we go back and forth about. And let's say a cat were to become part of my house, it would have to be an outdoor cat, because my dog gets, he goes outside a lot. So, at any rate, that's neither here nor there, anywhere up there. Look, there's some characters here at Cafe Anyway. We haven't said hi to them yet. Hello, Michael Master, it's Madame Rootabega, and this has been a very interesting podcast. Oh, thank you. Look who else is here.
Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant. Look who else just drove up.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that? I parked that car really good. No, you didn't. Yeah, I did. Do you know that? No, it's in pieces now. That was not a good job. I will not be doing this podcast tomorrow, possibly most of next week, because I've got to train this new guy who you heard on the last podcast, and I just don't have time to do my podcast. I mean, I got to train this new guy they trained on the last to do my job, in other words, and I just don't have time to do the podcast. So you'll have to go without Mike's Daily Podcast. It will not be daily. It will go against its very title for the next couple of days, possibly weeks. Just a heads up, just a warning. Warning, Will Robinson, danger, is what I'm trying to say.
Danger, Will Robinson, danger.
And Kamala Harris. Come on, rest of America. The rest of America can't say Kamala. They couldn't it's comma, and then the word la. A comma is a punctuation we all use. We should. Maybe I should use it more on this show. And then la. How difficult is that? Kamala Harris, go. And if you're a mom that loves Kamala Harris, you're Kamala Mama. And I'm trying to make that a thing. I don't know how successful I am. I had delicious ramen with my lovely lady friend over the weekend. It was so good. It was at Eon Coffee in Hayward, next to Chabot College. So delicious, they only do it on the weekend. Oh! And they only do it like from 11:30 to 1:30 or something. And we had such a good time. We took Basil the Boxer for a walk. Oh, it was so wonderful. What a great way to sum up this show. Thank you for listening to the show. The podcast picture is with the guy pouring us a delicious root beer right now. Go for it right now. We're wrapping up the show.
Hello, Mike. I make the delicious root beer. Oh, boy. Have some now. I'll cut you.
Very good. Have a great weekend. Have a great week. We'll talk soon. Thanks for listening. Tell your friends about it. Call me 336-MM-DAILY and tell them to go to the website that Ariel's going to tell you about right now.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!